Hey, it's Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader, and welcome to the Black Belt Leadership Podcast, where each week I'm giving you tips, tools, insights, and resources to help you become a better version of who you are and what you do as you discover, develop, and deploy your own Black Belt leader within. In the 2001 science fiction action movie, The One, Jet Li stars in a dual role playing Gabriel Yulaw, a law enforcement officer who polices interdimensional travel as well as a sinister version of himself from a parallel universe. Now, the sinister version of Gabriel has been traveling the multiverse seeking to kill every other version of himself who lives in any other parallel world. He is obsessed with becoming the one and the only Gabriel Yulaw. And as an interesting dynamic, every time one of the Gabriels in one of the other dimensions is murdered, the remaining Gabriels that are still alive in the other universes begin to experience an increase in speed and strength and their own mental prowess. And by the time we get to the final reckoning, there's only two Gabriels left. And as they square off in a battle royale, they find themselves evenly matched in strength and speed and ability. Now, at the end of the movie, the evil Gabriel is imprisoned and the good Gabriel is returned to a universe where he can once again experience a normal life with the person that he loves. This is a true in the ring with yourself story. Now, we see something similar in the 2019 movie Gemini Man. And in this movie, Will Smith plays two roles. He plays Henry Brogan, a 51-year-old elite assassin ready to retire who finds himself being hunted by the most gifted assassin that he's ever met. He later finds out that this assassin, codename Junior, is a younger, genetically cloned version of himself. Now, in this movie, Gemini Man, this movie goes through a number of twists and turns. About halfway through the movie, Henry discovers that the so-called adopted son of his friend Clay Verris, who is the director of the Gemini program, this adopted son, Junior, is a genetic duplicate of Henry. Now, Junior was part of a clandestine experiment to produce clones devoid of pain or emotion that could be hired out as targeted assassins as Gemini sought to build its own private military. So Junior's target is Henry, an older version of himself. And I mean, think about it. Because he's a clone, he thinks and acts like his target. So imagine you're a 51-year-old elite assassin and you've got this young kid that every time you turn around is almost about to take you out because he's thinking your thoughts and everything that you would do to defend yourself, he already knows the counter. This makes for a very intriguing story. And what I really loved about the movie is at the end of the movie, Henry and Junior come together to battle another unstoppable operative in what is a highly intense battle sequence. And at the end of the movie, we find out that this operative that they end up defeating together is but yet another youthful clone of Henry. Now, both of these In the Ring with Yourself movies highlight something unique, and it's the battle of an individual who finds himself at war with himself. Now, there are parallels in these movies to the battles that you and I face every day with the person who is looking back at us from the mirror when we get up every morning. And here's what I can tell you. When we face that person staring back at us in the mirror, that negative version of ourselves, there can only be one survivor. So my question to you and the topic of today's teaching is, which version of you is going to survive when you get into the ring with yourself? Now, I can tell you from experience, having been a fighter, if you've ever trained for a fight, it's not just physical. You not only need strength and stamina when you step in the ring, your mind has got to be in the right place. You got to have confidence. You got to be secure in the fact that you put in the time, that you've done the training, and you've prepared yourself mentally and physically for whatever your opponent may decide to throw at you in the ring. And as part of this preparation process, you've already fought this battle in your mind more than once. You've looked at the various scenarios. You've thought about the different ways that your opponent may react or respond or come at you and how you're going to counter those moves. You've replayed this fight from various angles, and you ultimately know that you're going to keep coming and you're going to keep going until the fight is over. So you've been in the ring with yourself in your mind's eye long before you ever set foot in the ring to physically square off against a physical opponent. And in this battle in your mind's eye, you battle the enemy of doubt and self-belief and disbelief. You face down your own negative self-talk. Now, you may have had an enemy that taunted you before the fight, and you may have had other people as you were training and getting ready that may have told you, I don't think you're going to be able to pull this one off. I think this opponent is going to win this fight. Those are the battles you've got to overcome in your mind until you ever have the opportunity to physically set foot in the ring and have a chance at winning that battle. Now, why is this important, and why are we talking about fighting ourselves in a ring? Well, here's why. Because every single day, you and I experience tens of thousands of thoughts. By some estimates, you and I are going to experience up to 70,000 thoughts a day. Up to 80% of those, according to a number of neurological studies, are negative thoughts, and up to 95% of the thoughts that we think are repetitive in nature. So if we do the math, that's roughly 40 to 60,000 thoughts every single day that we experience in our mind that are negative. And those negative thoughts are fighting to win the battle for our attention and to control our thinking. Now, there are some other studies that put that number much lower, saying that we only think anywhere from 6,500 to 7,500 thoughts a day. But even in those studies, we still see about 5,000 thoughts a day that we experience that are negative and recurring. And whether it's 50,000 or 5,000, that's still a lot of negative recurring thoughts that you and I have to deal with every day as we battle for the supremacy of who's going to win, our negative self or our positive self. So what are the negative thoughts that you and I deal with every single day that we need to be aware of? Well, it really starts with our own negative self-talk. It's that nagging little voice between our ears that keeps telling us why we can't do this, or we can't do that, or we can't become this or that, or we can't win at the game of life. Not only do we have to deal with our own negative thoughts, we may have people around us that don't believe in us, and they have no problem telling us they don't believe in us. They're all the time telling us we can't say this, we can't do this, we can't accomplish that because they don't believe in us. And here's the problem. When we dwell on those things, our own negative self-talk and the negative self-talk of the people around us, doubt and disbelief are seeded into our thinking, and they ultimately begin to take root. Now, this battle in the ring with ourselves can also take the form of fear of the past. Because when we spend our time focused on what happened in the past, we've got concern that those very same failures are going to happen in the future. And as a result, three of the major emotional downers in our lives, fear and anger and guilt, keep showing up. And when they do, they feed the root of doubt and disbelief, much like pouring fertilizer on a seed, and it amplifies the power of doubt and disbelief over our lives. Now, why is that? Because when we continue to dwell on the mistakes of the past, believing they're going to repeat themselves in the future, we're allowing anger and fear and guilt and depression and anxiety and all these negative emotions to distort our view of reality. So we don't see things as they truly are. It's kind of like watching two motion pictures at the same time. I mean, think about it. We go to the movies and we sit down in the chair, and all of a sudden on the same screen, two cameras are going to project two different movies on the same screen at the same time. And that is the past being overlaid on the present, trying to predict the future. And as a result of that, we don't see the present for what it truly is. And we ultimately get stuck believing that the past is going to continue to repeat itself in the future, and we're going to experience the same failures over and over again. And if we allow that to keep going on in our thinking, it ultimately feeds a scarcity mindset. What is a scarcity mindset? It's a belief that there's never going to be enough. Somebody else is always going to get the job. Somebody else is always going to get the promotion. Somebody else is going to win the lottery. Somebody else is going to succeed in business. It's just not going to be us. Well, I recently heard my friend and mentor, Dr. John Maxwell, and he was sharing a story on scarcity. He said, when we see the world through a scarcity mindset, it's like seeing the world as only one pie. And maybe there's 8 slices in that pie. And if every time somebody else wins, they're taking a piece of that pie. And that means there's one less slice of that one pie for the rest of us. And when we see the world that way, we want to hoard what little we have because in our mind, that's all there is, and that's all there's ever going to be. That is a great picture of a scarcity mindset, a belief there's never going to be enough. Now, I'm here to tell you that this is not the way black belt leaders see the world. And one of the things you hear me say often in my workshops, in my podcast, and if you've had the opportunity to hear me from the stage, you'll often hear me say, as you think, you say, you do, and become. And once you stop thinking, you stop saying, you stop doing, and you stop becoming. So what does that mean, and how do we apply that to today's lesson? Well, it is very, very simple. If you think negatively, you're going to say negative things. You're going to do negative things, and you're ultimately going to become a negative person. But once you stop thinking negative thoughts, you're going to stop saying negative things. You're going to stop doing negative things, and you're going to stop becoming a negative person. I love the way Henry Ford put it in the timeless quote that you've often heard myself and others share. Whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right. If you and I really want to win the skirmish with our negative self, we've got to change the way that we see that person looking back at us in the mirror. Now, in my book, Black Belt Leadership 101, the very first prerequisite to becoming a black belt leader in life is the quality of belief. It is the character quality of believing that you are capable of doing and saying and becoming more. The premise is simple, but it's very, very powerful. And here's the quote from the book. You cannot achieve what you do not believe. Now, think about the simplicity, but the power of that statement. You cannot achieve what you do not believe. Think about what Henry Ford said. Whether you believe you can or whether you believe you can't, you're right. If you don't believe you can do it, you cannot achieve it. Author John Gordon, the incredible writer of the Energy book and many, many other incredible writings on positive psychology, he believes this very same thing. I recently heard him say from the stage, you're not the thoughts you think, you're the thoughts that you believe. Now think about that. You're not the thoughts you think, you're the thoughts you believe. That reinforces what I say in my book, Black Belt Leadership 101. You cannot achieve what you do not believe. And if every single thing starts with a thought, we've got to be very, very careful what we're thinking. So to win the battle within, it starts with belief. Now, I believe there's a very simple 5-step process that you and I can use to shift our thinking from a scarcity mindset to one of abundance. It's the very same process that you and I can use to alter and silence that nagging little voice between our ears that's constantly telling us what we can't do. So how do we conquer our negative self? First, we replace. Now, by replace, I mean we simply replace the thoughts that aren't serving us well with thoughts that do. We have to pay attention to the thoughts that we're thinking so that we can learn to recognize what thoughts aren't moving us forward, what thoughts aren't serving us well, and replace those thoughts with thoughts that are going to serve us better. There's many things in life that you and I can't control, but one thing that we can control is our thoughts. We can and we should be very, very intentional about the thoughts we think and the voice that we entertain between our ears. Now, neuroscience studies have backed this up. They've shown that our prefrontal cortex acts as our brain's executive control center. And when we coordinate that region of our brain with our hippocampus, we can actually shift our focus. We can redirect our attention away from unwanted or negative thoughts. And we can also use mindfulness practices that I've taught, and there are courses available on my website to help us center our thoughts and our emotions. Now, the second thing we do is we reject. Part of winning the war with ourselves is learning to reject not only our own negative self-talk, but the negative opinion of others. I want you to get this, and I want you to get it down in your thoughts, and I want you to get it down in your heart. Everybody has an opinion, but that opinion is only their opinion. Just because they have an opinion doesn't mean their opinion is a fact or the truth. Everyone has an opinion, but it's only their opinion. So successful people do something differently. They reject the negative opinions of other people because they realize that those negative opinions are often rooted in envy and belief. And they choose to replace the negative opinions of others with their own confident, abundant belief in themselves. They spend all day affirming themselves and reminding themselves of what they can do and what they will do as they continue to learn, to grow, to apply, and improve. Now, in case you don't believe it to be true, just spend one day listening to other people. People are always willing to share their opinions, and they're willing to do so whether we ask them or not. We don't have to ask them to share their opinion because people can't wait to share their opinions with us. But remember, when they do, it is their opinion, nothing more. So when someone shares their opinion, we have to weigh that opinion against the truth. Now, not their truth rooted in their belief, but your truth that's rooted in reality. And successful people reject what isn't true and they call it for what it is. It's someone's personal opinion and nothing more. Now, the third thing we do is we restore. We restore our belief in ourselves. How do we do that? We remember the battles we've won. We remember the victories we've celebrated, and we look back to see how far we've come. That's why I love journaling, because a journal is a chronicle that documents our journey from where we started to where we are today, and we can see the progress that we made along the way. Because when we take the time to remember the battles we've won and to celebrate and remember those celebration victories, we get an opportunity to realize we're a lot further down the pathway of success than maybe we thought at the moment. And as we limit negativity and we amplify positivity, we elevate our belief in what's possible. That's why it is so important that we engage in daily personal growth. Because when we do that, we stretch the quality of our thinking. And when we stretch the quality of our thinking, we stretch the quality of our saying, our doing, and our becoming. Remember, and I say it often, as we think, we become. As we think, we say, we do, and we become. So as we improve the quality of our thinking, what happens? It spills over into every area of our lives, and it deepens our belief in ourselves. You know, Heraclitus, the ancient Greek philosopher, aptly put it, no man steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. I love that quote because it's a reminder that as we gain experience and knowledge and wisdom and insight from daily personal growth, our belief in what is possible continually expands. And then we renew. We renew our sense of purpose and passion. We rediscover our why. Now, I believe that everybody has been put on this earth on purpose for a purpose. And I'm a person of faith. And because of that, I believe that everybody has been endowed by their Creator with all that they have need of to fulfill and complete their purpose in the earth. So think about it. If you and I, if we're here on purpose for a purpose and we've been equipped to fulfill that purpose, we've got all that we need to achieve that purpose. Talk about renewing confidence in ourselves. To me, that's a wow. If we're here on purpose, for a purpose, and equipped to fulfill it, we've got all we need to achieve it. So when we reconnect with our why, we amplify our belief in what's possible and what we believe we can and do and will achieve. And then the last thing we do, we reveal. We reveal our new confident self to the world. We've won the battle over our negative self. We've won over the negative opinions of others. We've defeated our own self-doubt. We've silenced our fear of the past and our concerns they're going to repeat in the future. We've let go of our past mistakes. We've replaced our scarcity mindset with one of abundance. And when we do those things, at the end of the day, you and I get to leave the ring where we've been battling with ourselves. We get to leave the ring with our hands held high in victory. And guess what? We get up the next day and we get back in the ring with ourselves. And if negativity shows back up, it's time for a rematch. We don the gloves, we step in the ring, we wait for the bell, and we come out swinging. And then at the end of the day, because we've won and we know what we got to do to win again, now we're a two-time champion. And then tomorrow, if it happens again, we're a three-time champion. We continue to face down our negative self until our negative self stops climbing in the ring. Now, as president of the United States Martial Arts Hall of Fame, I've been privileged to meet and get to know and train with some incredible people in the global martial arts community. Many of them have been or currently are national or world champions. Now, I can tell you that every single one of them not only fought in the ring and won there, they fought the battles with doubt and disbelief in their minds before they ever got in the ring. And it was because of that they had the opportunity to get to the top of their game and to stay there. But sadly, I've also talked with those who had the potential to be national or world champions, but they lost the battle in their mind and they never made it to the top. Time and time again, those individuals have told me their greatest regret was knowing that there was more out there for them, but they settled for less because they gave up the fight in their mind and never had a chance to win in the ring. Think about it. Those individuals never won the battle with their negative selves, and that kept them from winning in the game of life. They got in the ring with themselves, and what happened? Because they were unwilling to battle their negative selves and battle it to victory, they were either carried out on a stretcher, they were counted out by the ref, or they lost to the judge's decision. So my challenge to you is this: don't let that person be you. You got to remember, your negative self only wins in the ring when you get knocked down and you choose not to get back up. Your negative self only wins when you throw in the towel when things get tough, or when the fight's taking longer than you expect, or you're bruised and bloody and tired and sore, still knowing you can win, but you quit nonetheless. Don't let this be you. So how do we walk away victorious when we square off against our negative self? Well, let's recap what we've talked about. We replace the thoughts that don't serve us well with thoughts that do. We reject the negative opinion of others. We restore belief in ourselves. We renew our sense of purpose and passion, and we reveal our new confident, victorious self to the world. Those are 5 simple but very powerful steps to make sure that you and I win the battle within as we get in the ring with ourselves every single day. Hey, I want to leave you with one final story that sums this lesson up extremely well. It's an old Cherokee proverb that was passed down from my grandfather to me, and it's a reminder of the battle that you and I face every day. A young boy comes to his grandfather. He's filled with anger at another boy who's done him wrong. The old grandfather says to his grandson, "Let me tell you a story. I too have felt great hate for those who have taken so much with no sorrow for what they do. But son, I'm here to tell you that hate wears you down, and hate doesn't hurt your enemy. Hate is like taking poison and wishing your enemy would die." Now, I've struggled with these feelings many times, and it's as if there were 2 wolves inside of me. One wolf is good, and it does no harm. This wolf lives in harmony with all around him, and he doesn't take offense where no offense was intended. He only fights when it's right to do so, and he only fights in the right way. Now, the other wolf, that other wolf, is full of anger. The littlest thing will set him into a fit of rage. He fights everyone all the time for no reason. He cannot think because his anger and his hate are so great. It is a helpless anger because the anger inside of him will change nothing and it only consumes him. Sometimes it's hard to live with these two wolves inside of me because my son, both of these wolves are trying to dominate my spirit. And this young boy looked intently into his grandfather's eyes and he asked this question: Grandfather, which of these wolves will win? And the grandfather replied with a smile, the one I feed. Every single day, you and I, we face a choice. We have a choice to feed our confident, abundant self, or we have a choice to feed our negative scarcity self. Every single day, we enter the ring with ourselves, but the combatant that we fed is going to win the contest. So my question to you is this: which version of yourself are you feeding? Because that's who's going to win the fight. I'm Dr. John Terry, the Black Belt Leader. Thanks for joining me. Have a great day.